18-0. That was supposed to be the record, first-round knockout. That was the prediction, his prediction. Instead, Ilia Topuria sat on his stool between rounds 4 and 5, eyes swollen shut, blood covering his face, and let his corner stop the fight. The 0 is gone. The belt is gone. And at 29 years old, one of the most dominant champions in recent UFC history faces the biggest question of his career. What happens now? Tonight, we go deep on Topuria's defeat, what went wrong, where he goes from here, and whether we are looking at a champion who lost one fight or the beginning of the end of a dynasty that never fully got started. To understand why Topuria's loss is so significant, we need to revisit how he got here. Born in Germany to Georgian parents, raised in Alicante, Spain. His family moved across Europe chasing stability. Topuria founded in combat sports. He came up through the Spanish MMA scene, which is not exactly the most well-known pipeline to UFC stardom. But he was different from the start, technical, precise, ice-cold under pressure. He went through the UFC's featherweight division methodically, win after win, and then the biggest fight of his career, Alexander Volkanovski. The Australian who had been the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, the man who had beaten everyone. Topuria knocked him out in the second round. Clean, precise, brilliant. He could have stayed at featherweight, defended the belt, built a legacy at 145 pounds. Instead, he vacated the belt and moved to lightweight, an unprecedented move. A 155-pound division full of veterans, former champions, and elite talent. He won the lightweight title in his very first fight at the weight class, knocking out Charles Oliveira. Then he defended it against Max Holloway. 3 consecutive knockouts of 3 former champions at 2 different weight classes at 29 years old. And then came Gaethje, and the night that rewrote everything. Let us analyze exactly what happened in that octagon at the White House. The first issue, Gaethje's jab. In 17 professional fights, very few opponents had successfully built an entire game plan around establishing a jab against Topuria. Gaethje did, and it worked to a degree that nobody anticipated. The jab creates 2 problems. First, it keeps Topuria at the exact distance where his counters are least effective. Topuria's best punching range is when his opponent is close enough to be countered. A stiff jab keeps that distance open. Second, and this is what made the difference, the jab accumulated damage from round 1. Topuria was bleeding early. His eyes began to swell, and as the fight progressed, that accumulated damage changed what Topuria could see and how he could execute his game plan. The second issue, Topuria faded after round 2. He threatened to stop the fight in round 2, he hurt Gaethje and had him in trouble. But he could not finish, and after burning energy trying to get the finish, he came out in round 3 a different fighter. Slower, less crisp. The third issue, the corner stoppage. Topuria's corner made the decision at the end of round 4. Topuria's eyes were severely swollen. The damage was visible and significant, but this decision will be debated for a long time. Did Topuria quit? His corner quit on his behalf. Is that the same thing? At 29 years old with a 5th round still available, should they have let him try? These are questions that will be asked for years. I want to spend time on something that most breakdowns skip, the mental dimension of this loss. Topuria built his entire brand on the 0, on being unbeatable, on the guarantee. He said publicly he would knock Gaethje out in round 1. He said Gaethje's game plan made for an easy knockout. None of that happened. Gaethje's jab dismantled him, slowly, round by round, in front of the President of the United States at the White House with the entire combat sports world watching. The mental adjustment required from Topuria after this loss is significant. He is not just recovering from a physical defeat. He is recovering from having his undefeated record, his aura of invincibility, and his public guarantee all stripped away in one night. The greatest fighters in history, John Jones, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Anderson Silva, all navigated periods of adversity. Some never lost. Some came back from shocking defeats to cement their legacies even further. Anderson Silva lost to Chris Weidman in one of the most shocking upsets in UFC history, and came back to fight again multiple times. His legacy remains intact as one of the greatest of all time. How Topuria responds to this defeat will define the next chapter of his career, more than any of his wins did. The options for Topuria are genuinely fascinating. Option 1, immediate rematch at lightweight. He was the champion. He lost by corner stoppage after 4 rounds. He hurt Gaethje in round 2. There is a legitimate case for a rematch, especially given how competitive the fight was through 3 rounds. But does the UFC give it to him over Islam Makhachev? Makhachev has been the #1 contender for months. He publicly stated he had accepted a fight against Topuria and was passed over. The argument for Makhachev getting the first shot at Gaethje is strong. Option 2, return to featherweight. The featherweight belt is vacant. Topuria vacated it to move to lightweight. He is still one of the best featherweights on the planet. Going back to 145 and recapturing that title would be one path to rebuilding his legacy, but it also carries the narrative risk of looking like he is retreating. Running back to the division, he dominated rather than fighting for the lightweight title he lost. Option 3, stay at lightweight and fight back into title contention. Win 2 or 3 fights against top-ranked lightweights. Earn the title shot the hard way. Show that the Gaethje loss was a mistake that has been corrected and not a sign of something deeper. This might be the option with the highest long-term payoff, but it requires patience in an era where fighters want the next big fight immediately. Whatever path Topuria chooses, the MMA world will be watching. He is too talented, too young, and too hungry to disappear. There is a massive side effect of Topuria's loss that needs to be addressed. The UFC featherweight title is vacant. When Topuria moved up to lightweight, he vacated the belt. No tournament was announced. No interim champion was created. The featherweight division has been in limbo. Now with Topuria's loss at lightweight, there are 2 scenarios. Scenario 1, Topuria goes back to featherweight to reclaim the belt. This gives the division a marquee name and a compelling narrative. Scenario 2, the UFC creates a new featherweight champion. Who is next in line? Diego Lopes just had an impressive performance at the White House. Alexander Volkanovski, the man Topuria dethroned, is still ranked in the division. Max Holloway, who Topuria knocked out, went on to lose at lightweight. Could Holloway go back to featherweight? The featherweight division is suddenly one of the most interesting storylines in the UFC, and Topuria's next decision will determine how it plays out. Let us put this result in historical context. Is Gaethje defeating Topuria the biggest upset in UFC history? The case for yes. Topuria was -520. His undefeated record stood at 17. He had finished 3 consecutive former champions. No one gave Gaethje a legitimate path to victory. The location, the White House, amplified the scale of the moment. Other contenders for the biggest upset title: Serra defeating GSP, Weidman knocking out Anderson Silva, Ngannou stopping Stipe Miocic, Ronda Rousey losing to Holly Holm. The Serra win over GSP was considered the biggest at the time. The Weidman win over Silva was shocking. Silva was undefeated in UFC at the time. But Topuria's record, his dominance, and the venue make the Gaethje upset a genuine contender for the top spot in the history of UFC upsets. This will be debated for years. And that debate is one of the things that makes this sport endlessly compelling. So now we have a new lightweight champion, Justin Gaethje, 37 years old. The highlight, the man who was supposed to be the appetizer before the main course of Topuria's continued dominance. What does the Gaethje era look like at lightweight? His first defense will almost certainly be against Islam Makhachev. That fight is a nightmare stylistically. Makhachev's wrestling against Gaethje's striking. Gaethje has improved his takedown defense significantly, but Makhachev's grappling is at the absolute elite level. Can Gaethje pull off a second miracle? Against a man who was previously pound-for-pound #1 and has elite wrestling. If Gaethje beats Makhachev, he becomes the greatest story in the modern era of MMA. A 37-year-old who came back from 2 title-shot failures to win the championship and then defended against the former pound-for-pound king. If Makhachev wins, we get Islam as champion again, and the entire lightweight picture reshuffles once more. And Topuria waits in the background, hungry for redemption. The lightweight division in the second half of 2026 is the most compelling storyline in MMA. UFC Freedom 250 did not end a chapter. It started a new one. Here is the bottom line. Ilia Topuria lost his zero on the south lawn of the White House. It was shocking, it was painful for his fans, and it raises genuine questions about what comes next. But Topuria is 29 years old. He is still elite. He will be back. Justin Gaethje is the champion. The greatest upset of his career, possibly the greatest upset in UFC history, belongs to him. And the lightweight division, already the most exciting in MMA, just got even more interesting. Tell me in the comments, what should Topuria do next? Rematch, featherweight, or fight back into title contention? Subscribe and hit the bell. We cover every move in the lightweight title picture as it develops.